Well, hello there. You are watching the press preview, a first look at what is on the front pages. Time then to see what's making the headlines with the chief leader writer at The Observer, Sonia Soda, and the Whitehall editor of the Financial Times, Lucy Fisher. Welcome to both of you. As ever, let's take a look, shall we, at the front pages. Starting with the Eye, revenge served hot. That's how the Eye describes Suella Braverman's parting broadside to Rishi Sunak today after she was sacked as Home Secretary in the cabinet reshuffle. The Express says war has been declared after Ms Braverman accused the PM of betraying the nation. That word betrayal also featuring on the front of tomorrow's Times. This is page one of the Daily Mail. We had a deal and you broke it, Suella tells the PM. The Star resurrects a word from the Thatcher era to describe her attack, handbagged. Meanwhile, the arrest of a man over the death of ice hockey player Adam Johnson when his neck was slashed during a game in Sheffield is the lead story for the Metro. And the Financial Times reports on a boost to markets on Wall Street after lower than expected inflation figures for the US economy. But a reminder, by scanning the QR code you'll see on screen during the programme, you can check out the front pages of the papers while you watch us. So let's head to our guests then, to Sonia Soda and Lucy Fisher. So much to discuss. Where to start? Oh yes, Suella on the front page of a number of newspapers. A broadside that had been expected. Lucy, did it go further than you expected?
Well, it did. As you say, when she was fired yesterday, she made clear this wasn't the last we'd heard of this, that she would speak out in due course. So I think in Westminster, in Downing Street, people were braced for her reaction. But I think this has surprised many of her colleagues in the, frankly, viciousness of the tone. And in that sense, I think she may not have done herself as many favours as she might have hoped. The language is so strong, accusing the Prime Minister of a betrayal of his promise to do whatever it takes to stop the small boats, accusing him of wishful thinking, magical thinking, weak leadership, equivocation, a lack of interest in stopping irregular migration. That, in fact, some of her colleagues on the right of the party, people who are ordinarily quite critical of Sunak in private, believe that, in fact, that this is quite a narcissistic act and so over the top that they don't want to sort of be seen to be falling in behind her.
Which is interesting because actually this has to be seen as a pitch for this time next year, post-election, which we now presume to be in autumn. That's certainly the mood music that people have been saying. What we're not 100% sure of is how many MPs she takes with her, if she does. Sunak obviously decided that the threat of her on the backbenches wasn't sufficient to block him from sacking her. But what about this deal? Effectively, she was saying, I managed to get you the job as Prime Minister and basically get rid of Boris Johnson. So I was the person who did this for you.
So we all know these deals go on behind closed doors in politics when you've got people competing for the leadership of political parties. What's so unusual, I think, is somebody just coming out and talking about it in public, in the open. It's really not the done thing in Westminster. And what she's saying is, we signed a deal that, you promised me some things in order to get my backing, including, apparently there was a promise on getting net migration down below around, I think it was 280,000 was the figure she mentioned. Stuff on the ECHR, the European Convention on Human Rights, that Sunak would take the UK out of that.
Which becomes critical after tomorrow, but we'll discuss
Absolutely,
that in a moment,
we will come on to that. It's a very news-rich environment. So she's just coming out in the open and saying, look, we have this deal, and you break your promise to me. I don't think voters are that concerned whether Rishi Sunak breaks his promises to Suella Braverman or not. I think they're more interested in what he's doing for the country. But B, I think one of the reasons why she's kind of shot herself in the foot somewhat here is, trust in politics is everything. And once you sort of start going out and going on the record about these deals that were made behind closed doors, I think lots more people than some of your allies might look at you and think, gosh, does this person really have the discretion they need to potentially be leader of the Conservative Party? So I do feel she's rather overshot, as Lucy was saying. She thinks she's got this great political strategy to be the next leader of the Conservative Party. But I think for those of us watching from the outside, it appears she's maybe not playing it quite as well as she thinks she is.
So the Eye, revenge served hot, betraying the nation, no mandate, incapable, magical thinking, you've said some of these anyway, uncertain, weak and lacking in the qualities of leadership that this country needs. I mean, it was excoriating, no doubt about it. But will he miss the voice that she had to the nation on issues like the Stop the Boats pledge, do you think?
Well, look, actually, I think there's been a poll out today suggesting that a majority of the public think that Sunak was right to sack her. I think that may also speak to the way in which she was seen to be going rogue, certainly in terms of rhetoric and tone, if not in policy per se, not only on immigration, but recently on rough sleepers, those notorious comments suggesting that being homeless is somehow a lifestyle choice, which I think, again, went down very badly in her party, including on the right and the sort of religious right. There is a sort of significant minority of kind of Christian MPs on the right who just really don't like that kind of language. Look, I think Rishi Sunak is under pressure on migration. That is clearly the case. But there are many around him who think that that much of the country where they stand is feeling concerned about migration. Often when people can't get a GP appointment, say, they themselves or their children can't get on the housing ladder, they think that that's because too many people are coming to this country, whether legally or illegally. However, I think there are many people around Sunak who think that doesn't mean the public like the kind of rhetoric, again, that Braverman has used, words like invasion, hurricane, and the sense that, you know, demonising migrants isn't where necessarily many of the public are. But it's certainly a live debate in the party at the moment. And in the many MPs, Conservative MPs in the Red Wall, do think that, you know, she is banging the drum in the right way and that this hardline approach will be popular with their constituents. So there is this real split in the party.
Yes, and amongst the hardest line bit has been the Rwanda policy. So it's been a busy news week. It'll be a busy news day on Wednesday, certainly. That is one of the things we're looking ahead to. In the morning, the Supreme Court will rule on the legality of the Rwanda policy to ship people to Rwanda if they land illegally in this country. Now, certainly it's something that Suella Braverman references, but, you know, you take it away for us.
Sure, of course. Well, you summarised it so well there, Anna. But, yes, so, you know, it's a key government policy. They think it will deter people from coming to the UK to seek asylum if they have a policy that everybody, as soon as they come to the UK, will be detained and then deported at the first available opportunity to what they call a third safe country, and their asylum claims will be processed there instead. The only such country that they've got to deal with is Rwanda, and the numbers are very small for it. The issue is that is this lawful? Under UK law, under, you know, human rights law is part of the ECHR, the European Convention on Human Rights, is part of UK law under our Human Rights Act. And a case has been taken and it's working its way through the various stages of the court. The Court of Appeal, which is the last court to look at it, said, in theory, this policy is legal. You could deport somebody to a safe third country, but Rwanda is not a third safe country because of the terrible outcomes there for asylum seekers, the fact that actually so few people from the countries that are in conflict actually succeed in getting asylum there. So the Court of Appeal were like, you can have this policy, but Rwanda is not on the cards, and then all of a sudden the government's got not a single country and they've got tens of thousands of people arriving in the UK a year to claim asylum, which is lower than a lot of European countries, I must say. It's now going to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court has to look and see whether the Court of Appeal made the right decision. It will either say that the Court of Appeal got it right and actually the government can't have this policy, or it will say that the Court of Appeal was wrong and the government can start deporting people to Rwanda. So it's kind of a big thing for the government because it partly determines whether their policy will work or not, although I have to say, I think on a practical level, there are so many other reasons it's not going to work, even if it's lawful.
Well, there's the Daily Express, war is declared. Suella accuses Rishi of betraying the nation. The Daily Star as well, you know, on a news story. Tories in a tears, handbagged. And just very quickly on Rwanda as well, Suella Braverman making clear that actually Rishi Sunak does not want to take the UK out of the ECHR, if I got that right round, and align himself, therefore, with countries that are out, which include Russia and Belarus.
Yeah, well, interestingly, Suella Braverman's covered herself on either outcome tomorrow. She said even if the Supreme Court goes with the government, well, in fact, Rishi Sunak has insisted on compromises to the legislation that means in practice it's going to the country will struggle, the government will struggle to deport people to Rwanda. There aren't enough safeguards against legal challenges being brought. And then she says if the government goes, if the ruling goes against the government, again, she blames Rishi Sunak and accuses him of failing to come up with a credible plan B, as she puts it. One scenario that I don't think has got enough airtime in the past 24 hours is the possibility that even if the Supreme Court goes against the government and says this policy is not lawful, there are other European countries that are now looking at similar models for processing asylum seekers offshore, including Germany, that's looking at non-EU countries. So it does feel to me that there could be growing momentum across the EU, across Europe, I should say, for perhaps reforming the ECHR.
Well, welcome back. You are watching the press preview with me, once again. The chief leader writer at The Observer, Sonia Soda, and the Whitehall editor of the Financial Times, Lucy Fisher. Welcome back to both of you. Lucy, should we go to Gaza? Real concern now about what's happening around the hospital, certainly. But David Cameron, new Foreign Secretary, the Metro tells us is already hard at work.
Yes, day one in the role, and he's taken this move to sanction 4 Hamas leaders and 2 financiers of Hamas. I'm interested, this to me in some ways looks more of a signal that he's arrived in the Foreign Office and has got straight to work, because Hamas is already a prescribed terrorist organisation in the UK, which means being associated with it in any way, a member, a leader, financing it, involved in any administration, even bearing or promoting the logo is already illegal and subject to very high criminal penalties. So whether this takes it very much further in practice is questionable, but certainly it is a signal. It's something the UK has done in concert with the US and is designed perhaps as a gesture of solidarity to Israel at a time when the government is also becoming a little bit more critical of the ongoing bombardment and activity in Gaza.
Got 30 seconds left to talk about cervical cancer and the success of the HPV vaccination programme.
So the chief executive of the NHS is saying that we may eliminate cervical cancer by 2040, which is amazing because at the moment it kills, I think it's over 800 women a year, mostly in their 30s, die of cervical cancer. It's 2 things. It's partly the vaccine, which has been incredibly effective. It's just one of those unambiguously good medical news stories. It's really cutting down cancer rates, or it will do, amongst that generation. And then it's the cervical cancer screening programme, smear tests. 1 in 3 women still miss their smear tests, their regular smear tests. So there's another push to say, please go and get your smear test if you get called for one.